Welcome back to some of the best tales from tech support. I hope you had a great day. Thanks for all the likes and comments on the last video. And now, let's start with the first story. It's called No Alerts. My desk used to be near our help desk, which was convenient, because they could quickly come around the corner to ask me questions as needed. It was also a great spot to overhear some of the interesting situations that came up. One day I was working when I heard one of our help desk team members on the phone with a client. Everything seemed to be going fine, until I suddenly heard him ask, "Wait, aren't we in the same building? Call me back later, if you are still having issues." He hung up and told us the caller had mentioned the building was being evacuated due to a threat. That's when it hit him that we were all in the same building. At that point, no one had alerted us to the situation, so we were standing there, unsure if we should evacuate too. Then I noticed people streaming out of the fire exit just outside our office. I suggested we follow suit. Thankfully, everything ended up fine. It turned out to be a false alarm. However, one of our next big projects after that was setting up an alert system that could notify everyone via their desk phones if something like that ever happened again. The next story is called Sunlight. In my previous job, I worked as a field service engineer. It was a role that required me to be a bit of everything: an IT specialist, a mechanic, a furniture mover, and even a truck driver. Unsurprisingly, the company struggled to find candidates with all these skills. I actually enjoyed the job on a fundamental level, but the pay didn't match the workload. So I decided to move on after a disappointing salary review. One day I was called to repair a portable slit lamp at a hospital. For those unfamiliar, it's a handheld device used to examine eyes. As was typical with hospitals, the biomedical department was deep within the building, down long corridors and behind countless doors. Thankfully, I was escorted in, or I'd never have found it. Once I arrived, they showed me the device, and I got to work. The issue was straightforward: a loose internal lens that needed to be glued in place. The challenge, however, was that the glue required UV light to cure, and I didn't have an UV lamp with me. No big deal. We usually just step outside into the sun for a minute, and the glue sets quickly. I looked around for a window. None in sight. I checked down the hall. Still no windows. "Excuse me? I know this might sound odd, but where can I find some sunlight?" They directed me to the loading bay, just a short walk away. Carefully holding the slit lamp, ensuring the lens stayed perfectly in place, I made my way down the hall. When I reached the dock, I was met with disappointment. The towering hospital walls blocked most of the sunlight. I could see a sliver of sky and knew there had to be sun somewhere, so I started walking. Eventually, I found a welcoming beam of sunlight shining down like a spotlight. Standing there, I raised the slit lamp into the light, almost like I was offering it to some higher power. I tried to look casual, though it's hard to look casual when you're holding a medical device aloft, like it's part of a ritual. After a minute, the glue was cured. I made my way back to the department, finished the repair, and tested the unit. It worked perfectly. Later that day, I went online and ordered a high-powered UV torch. That way, next time, I wouldn't have to wander the halls, like a reverse vampire on a quest for sunlight. The third story is called Microwave or PC. I work in tech support for a fairly large company, and I've had my share of unusual calls. But this one really stood out. A customer called in, clearly frustrated. I asked for details, and they explained that their computer was just frozen and nothing was working. I reassured them, "No problem, let's start by rebooting the computer." Please hold the power button for 10 seconds to turn it off, and then turn it back on. There was a pause, and then, "I don't know how to do that." "You don't know how to turn off your computer?" No, I don't know where the power button is. I stayed professional, even though I was a little surprised. I calmly walked them through finding the power button. I asked if they could locate it on the device. They said they didn't see one. So I tried another approach. Can you look on the side or back of the computer for a button or logo? It doesn't have one. Now I was confused. I asked if there were any lights on the device. They said no, there weren't. That's when it hit me. Are you sure you are looking at your computer? Well, no, I'm looking at my microwave. They had spent 30 minutes trying to reboot a microwave, thinking it was their computer. After a long pause, I gently explained that microwaves don't quite work like computers. I suggested they find their actual computer instead. They were very apologetic, and I couldn't help but laugh after the call ended. The next story is called Too Early. Got an alert about half an hour ago about a server at one of our remote sites running low on storage. I pulled it up to take a look and see if there was anything I could clean up. I clicked on a large folder to check out the files inside, and suddenly my remote access froze. Wow, there must be a ton of stuff in that folder, I thought to myself. But before I could figure it out, I was completely disconnected. Minor alarm bells started going off in my head. But since the connection software isn't perfect and has frozen on me before, I decided to wait a moment. Then it started. Other endpoints started dropping offline. What on earth did I just do? I thought, now getting a little nervous. Almost panicking, I switched over to the network controller's access page to investigate the site. Turns out the entire site was offline. Oddly enough, that actually calmed me down. There was no way what I did could take down the whole network. I checked another site in the same building, and sure enough, it was just a brief outage. By the time I was done looking into it, all the endpoints were back online. Too early in the day for that kind of stress though. The last story is called Not Involved. Some years back, it was decided that our analog phone system would be replaced. Once this decision was made and everything signed, we in IT were notified of this change. In that order. My boss naturally shared his many and well-qualified thoughts, but as is common, these were dismissed. The person responsible for this decision was neither IT nor senior management. How her proposal got accepted without our input or even knowledge would be mysterious and a cause for concern in most other organizations, but not in this one. So we meet with the supplier. Our questions are asked and some are answered. One in particular was about compatibility with Ethernet daisy chaining computers with our existing setup. Yes, all that will work. One of the techs, in particular, had an attitude that I could describe as needs improvement, and customer service skills that were less than ideal. I had the strong feeling he was in his very early 20s. Possibly this was his first technical job, and he was blindly loyal to the company, having known little else in his career. His response to many of our concerns could essentially be translated to, "No, our product is good. Our product is beautiful. Our product is right. And you are wrong to question it." I sat in on one training session. There was one member of staff in HR with whom I had a good relationship. She had been very kind and supportive to me over the years when I needed it. And she was always appreciative when it was my turn to help her with technical issues. We respected each other and were humble about each other's expertise. I had a soft spot for her, and I was always available to assist her. She was very excited and asked a very interesting, pertinent question about a certain feature. Mr. Needs Improvement got right in her face and said, "No, it doesn't do that." She was absolutely crushed, and I was deeply upset. Do our desktops PXE boot through the phones? Of course not. All staff are now without both the computer and desk phone whenever we need to reimage. Mr. Needs Improvement's response was of course to blame our network. I'm neither surprised nor bothered by this. Who among us hasn't seen this before? Evasion and misdirection of blame between IT and a supplier. It's a common part of the job. I'm not angry at Mr. Needs Improvement for this. I'm just deeply disturbed. He's not making excuses. He believes. He has absolute faith in the infallibility of the product. It's actually a little frightening to see such strong loyalty to a third-rate IP telephony system. My boss does everything he can to mitigate the issues. There are delays, and there's pushback from us and the general staff. Complaints roll in, and we redirect everyone who is unhappy to the person responsible, making it clear who is liaising for all queries related to the new phone system. Since we weren't consulted, there's nothing we can do. There are no technical requirements to hold them to, and there's no user acceptance testing to complete. There's barely a week of snagging support before we are handed over to the help desk for standard assistance. The only positive outcome from all of this was when the person responsible for all of this chaos made a very genuine, very sincere, and very out-of-character apology to us. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe. And if you have time, watch another one of my videos. Also, if you want to support me further, check out the channel membership or Patreon. And now, I hope you have a great day. See you soon. Bye bye.